For our final panel, we've got a few showstoppers coming out. One of the trends that we saw that we wanted to answer, kind of the questions and spur conversation, was how do we empower our daughters? So my little girl, I think about that a lot. What's the balance of empowering her but protecting her? So we have pulled together, we think, a great crew of people to present that discussion. So let me first introduce Bobbie Thomas. She is the style editor for NBC's Today Show. You. Bobbie is also, yes, she is now a spokesperson for the UN on reproductive health, and we appreciate everything that she's been doing along those lines. Next, I am proud to present musician and actress Brandy. I love this energy. This is good. And someone very special to the United Nations Foundation family, trustee for Turner Enterprises, Inc., Laura Turner Seydel. And finally, an amazing entrepreneur, CEO, and founder of the Buzz Marketing Group, but also she is author of the McKinsey Blue series, Tina Wells.
Welcome, everyone. I have to say, I see that there are men in the room, but there is something special about so many women in one room. Yes. Thank you for being here today. And we're really excited to talk about empowering young women from the inside out. This is something that is really near and dear to my heart. I just recently launched a book called The Power of Style. And for me, this was such a passion project. I really worked hard, and it took me about 6 years to find a publisher to say yes. And a lot of people were kind of surprised because I had a national platform, but in pitching this book, I really wanted the book to be two parts. I wanted the book to be about the inside and the outside. And I had many meetings where I heard, let's just do part 2. Women really love, their best colors and how to look on the outside and how to shop and edit their closet. And for me, I just couldn't, because a part of me and my own professional path, I had started as a psychology student. I was a rape crisis counselor earlier in my career. And then today, as a style editor, whichever the term is that gets floated out, I prefer professional girlfriend. But I really just wanted to empower women then, and I felt like I was doing that today, and I thought that what was under the dress was not only equally important, but far more important than just part 2. Anything I could share in part 2 really relied on who you were in part 1, and that is about empowering a woman. And finally, somebody said yes. I cried, I did a dance, I couldn't believe that I had stuck through the fight, and it launched. And so that's a little bit about me and my connection to this particular subject. I'm very passionate about it and beyond thrilled to be joining Brandy, who I'm going to let her sort of introduce herself and her connection to this topic as well.
Okay.
Yes. Or
hi everybody. I'm a little nervous, so I'm like, oh my God. But I'm really happy to be here. This means a lot to me. I'm a mother. I'm an artist. And more importantly, I'm a woman, and I'm so happy to share anything I possibly can with you women today, and that's all.
But that's a lot. You were saying that you were really excited to start at this point.
Yes, this is
through seeing your daughter.
Right. My daughter is the most important person in my life, that's where you feel the most unconditional love that you've ever felt. And, my whole purpose in life is to be an example and to inspire her in every way that I can, And that's really important to me. I'm sure it's important to all of you who are mothers out there.
It's an important message.
Yeah, y'all can clap if you agree. Okay.
And Laura, I know that you are excited to be here as well.
I couldn't be more excited because we're talking about our favorite topic, which is about our most important resource, which is our children.
Yes.
And when I was growing up, my mom, because this is in honor of Mother's Day, she taught me the virtue of gratitude, which was really important, to be grateful for all the blessings. And back then, I'm over 50 years old, and it was all about don't leave any food on your plate. There's starving children in China. And that has been so ingrained. You know, my parents were raised during the Great Depression, and we didn't waste anything back then. So I've kind of grown up with this ethic. Of course, Ted is my dad, and he's Captain Planet in the real body. So, you know, but he's been an environmentalist for decades, and we didn't leave the lights on, and we didn't leave the TV on. And if you got cold, you didn't go run and turn up the thermostat in the winter. And it was about saving as much, it was about saving money as much as it was about doing the right thing. So it's really something that's been ingrained. And when I was growing up, I was counting my blessings. I knew how much I had, and I didn't think it was fair that people that I lived with in my community had so much when there were so many children, millions and millions around the world that didn't have anything. And in Africa, I just heard a statistic yesterday. In the 1970s, 10% of the people there lived on less than $1 a day. Now it's 70% of those people. And 1 billion people around the world don't have fresh water, clean water, and we're adding 80 million people in the most poor places on earth to the population. So these are kind of issues I'm very passionate about, our children's health, you know, going into the future, you know, what is important. There's a Native American proverb that says we don't inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children, and we haven't been very good stewards. And if you've watched CNN over the decades like I have, you see the train wrecks. And we heard it from Radha this morning about the Clean Alliance for Clean Cook Stoves. Girls and women are having to walk 3 and 4 hours in the dark to get water, to get firewood, and it's because of environmental degradation. So we need to work much harder to think about these issues that really affect the long-term health and well-being of girls and women.
Thank you. That's definitely. And your passion that is so clear is why everybody is here today, and we hope that with your blogs, you know, we're able to sort of share this and pass it forward, because I do think that that's important. And I am really excited to also have you here, Tina. Let's talk about how fabulous you are and how much you love this topic.
So when I was 16, I started my company, Buzz Marketing Group. So it's been 17 years now. But the most exciting thing I've ever done is write and publish the Mackenzie Blue series, which is published by HarperCollins Children's Books. And I like to say that for a decade, I did research on teens, but I really got to know girls by writing a character that they love. And so Mackenzie is a 12-year-old girl, and I wrote this series because I was doing some research for Procter & Gamble. I had a mom come up to me at a focus group and say, hey, you know this stuff, let me ask you a question. My daughter is 10 and she's reading Gossip Girl. What should I do? And it kind of stayed with me because I understood her dilemma. She wants her to read, but she wants her to read something that's appropriate. And so being a marketer and a youth marketer, I thought, you know, can I take my skills in journalism and can I write something that would appeal to girls and something that their mother would like? And 5 books later, I think we've proved that we definitely can do that. But, you know, Mackenzie is a girl who loves herself. She loves science. She loves technology. She and her friends go to a certified lead school, so STEAM is really important. And she wants to be a singer-songwriter when she grows up, so the book is full of songs that she writes. You would love her. And she's really kind of like Punky Brewster meets Ramona, and she deals with a lot of issues that girls deal with at her age. So, you know, I got a lot of interesting emails when she went on a camping trip and got her period, and so it's reliving those moments for me that's interesting. But when I get emails either to me or to Mackenzie that says, you understand me, I'm just like you, and they ask for interesting advice on subjects, it's a great way to know girls. And so I don't have any children, but I feel like, you know, my 250,000 readers are my girls too, and I always want to write for them and protect them and make sure that they are educated on issues that make sense for them. And so these issues that we're talking about today, I want everyone to know girls understand them, and it's all about how we position it to them. And so I think it's really they're involved, they care. You know, Mackenzie and her friends make compost. I can't tell you how many girls email me and say, how do I do this at my school? And so the activism is there. We just have to find a way to meet them where they are and to maybe not assume that they don't know, because they do. They understand. They're watching CNN. They know that these things are going on, and it's kind of our job to figure out how to empower them.
Exactly. Well said. Now I am so honored to be sitting with three amazing women like this, but also in a room full of bloggers and moms, parents in general, to help us with this word. And, we want to sort of tackle what we see as the biggest challenges facing young women today. And I'd love for each of you to weigh in on that question. You've met so many young girls as fans, now you're a mom. What do you see, or what have you experienced that you think is a big challenge for young girls?
I think one of the biggest challenges is embracing how unique, they are. Fear of being the greatest version of themselves, and we don't have a lot of great examples out there. So I think it's tough to just find your leadership and be yourself with, with my daughter, it's all about sometimes what other people think about you and, fitting in. And so that's sort of tough, but I'm all about character building, and, I stay on her like white on rice, so. Yes. Absolutely.
It is important, and I do think, when we're talking about young girls, we have to be honest. There are certain things that are gonna catch their attention. Things that sparkle, high heels that shine. Girls, their attention, while they do know and they are watching CNN, sometimes reality television and characters that are louder than life do grab hold. And I think what we're trying to figure out as a community is how to meet them, like Tina said, meet girls where they are and really find a way to connect to them. And I would love to hear any ideas you have about where we can meet girls, because you're clearly so educated about what's happening in other places on the globe. Where do you think we can find these girls here to help empower them with knowledge about these issues?
Well, first of all, I think I just want to add to Brandy's comment about what one of the biggest challenges is for girls.
Yes.
And I think it's violence. It's violence around the world. 1 in 3 women or girls will be raped or brutalized in her lifetime, and that's a staggering, unforgivable statistic. And if we can't stop this atrocity against our mothers, our sisters, our daughters in our communities, then how can we possibly tackle some of these huge other issues like climate change?
Yes,
which we need to do. And I do have 2 daughters. One's 18 and one's 15. And they really care about the outside of their body. They're caught up in the whole culture of how you look, and it's not really as much about what your values are inside. They're afraid to go to school without makeup. And have been. And I think that is ridiculous. These girls carrying around diet sodas thinking that they're not pretty enough or skinny enough. And I think that sports is great. My girls have always been in sports, but I was a Girl Scout troop leader for both of my daughters at the same time. And that was a feat in and of itself. But I think that the Girl Scouts, it's 80% of our state senators, our legislators have been Girl Scouts. 100% of our female astronauts have been Girl Scouts, and I think it's 80% of all small business owners were Girl Scouts. And I was one too, and I just think it's good to get out of sports and away from academics and learn about leadership. And I think that is that's a very authentic thing to do. And I think Girl Up, that the UN Foundation launched a couple of years ago, has been extremely successful. I think that there's 300,000 girls that are posting on Facebook, that are Twittering. Now there's 140 different clubs in 28 countries. And it's just having a massive impact. And I know all of you are here to educate and get the word out, and that you'll go home and work with your daughters, and and I could go on and on.
I wish we had all day, because there's so many things that you just touched on that I'm just moderating, and I want to be like, yes, and da 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 da. And I know I want to get Tina back in, but a couple of things. We all know that women in general and girls are one of the most, if not the most, underused resource on earth. And violence is probably the biggest issue worldwide for women and here. And I think it's really important to embrace and support, like we try to work with so passionately, the UNF, because through Girl Up and other programs, they are working to ensure the safety and health and education, which I believe is a huge key to change. The more educated a girl is, the more she can see flags and boundaries, et cetera. And some of these other issues that we all talk about are kind of connected. It's like a domino effect. So we want to try to get to the root of that. But I do think that inspiring girls to, like you said, what girls think about, what girls worry about their first impression and what others think of them and what they wear. And one of the big things I talk about in The Power of Style is that how you treat people or what's underneath the dress is just as stylish. But getting girls to understand that is all about shifting the focus in the mirror and understanding where their true core confidence comes from. And I think that confidence can be built through philanthropy. I think young girls learning to partake in Girl Up and being inspired by your books, Tina, that's a great place to start. Do you have any ideas to help spread through the community via bloggers, et cetera, in terms of getting girls to partake in Girl Up or other programs that can help others?
I think a lot of times people think you have to do either or, right? Like I have to love clothes and shoes or be an advocate, and we all do all of those things. You don't have to choose. And I think with Mackenzie, she's sparkly. Every cover, I see more pink, and I'm like, why is this book pink and purple? But that's, I think, was the key for our success, is realizing that girls want to go through her crushes and her friend drama and watch her do really good things too. And so I think a lot of times without meaning to, we reinforce you must choose this path. And it's like, no, you can be glamorous and fashionable, and you can really understand the work that the UN Foundation does as well. And so I think we have to do a better job of saying to girls, that's okay. It's okay that you love fashion and style. We did when we were 15 too. We all had our caboodles and we all had our makeup, but we played sports and I did well in school, and so I didn't neglect those other things. So I think we have to change the tone in the conversation instead of saying choose one, to say how do you do all of these things, because if you are playing sports, I do think you're going to look at your body differently. If you are going to developing countries or have some experience, you're going to see the world differently. You're going to know your life's not really over when the boy does not call you back, that other things are happening in the world. So it's just kind of a broadening of the kind of landscape for them and saying all of these things are going on, and you can pay attention to them too.
And that you can.
Guys when I was 15.
Okay. Well, we're just all communicating more, which is great. But I love that message, because we are talking about inspiring girls from the inside out. And I think that what you bring up, I see as such a doorway into these young women. Telling a girl that she can balance all of that and she can strive to have it all. I was sharing with Brandy backstage that most parents and moms will sit down to talk about the birds and the bees with you. They didn't tell me how to shave my legs. They didn't tell me that I should be volunteer. I mean, all of these things escape. You're so busy. You're trying to pay the bills, get to work, get your kids home. But what we were talking about is how fashion, especially for young girls, is such a way into who they are, their values, what trends they're into, the music, like all of that's going to spur a conversation. And why don't you share what you were saying about the whole no, no, no versus, like, because usually you just heard you can't wear that. You don't do that makeup that way. It's never about what are you doing and what would you like to do, right?
I'm a little bit more open as a mom. I want to know what she's thinking. I want to know, I want to be involved. I don't want her to shut me out. So I think for me, I remember when I was a child and I remember what I wanted from my mom. My mom is great. I just want to put that out there. It's just that I want to be more open with my daughter and just get more into what she's into, you know, sort of like, don't kill me for saying this, but like a friend. Like,
it's true. You want to have some kind of connection,
right? And I don't want her to get it twisted because I am her mother.
Yeah,
it will be, you know, we will go at it, but there is a friendship there that I think should be developed, and that's what I'm working on now.
I guess what I'm just excited about is the opportunity to use the sparkles and the pink stuff for good. You know, that is clearly getting their attention. This whole, you know, panel here, we're trying to figure out where to meet them. I love the way you said that, because the only way to really empower young girls is to talk to them at that same level, to really, if they're going to listen, to not talk at them. And I feel like when you can use a platform that they're interested in to then bond with them, you can also share other things that are important, like being well-rounded and philanthropic, and, you know, letting them know that while you understand that, you know, these are the coolest high heel sneaker wedges on the planet, you also know that these are some statistics and there's a new movie, Girl Rising, coming out. Like, that's a cool way to sort of explore a conversation that doesn't feel like you're being talked at. And you, obviously, are there any moments you can recall from your own, working with your own kids, that you've had an aha moment of how you've really been able to sort of share any inspiring words?
Well, I just think it's so important with your children to make sure that you take them to other countries and expose them to how other people live, because that is an aha for them. They don't come back the same as when they went over, and it's just, our kids are spending about 90% of their time indoors. I mean, mine don't, they're on a soccer field, but 90% of their time indoors and 8 to 10 hours a day in front of some kind of screen. So it doesn't really give them the opportunity to get outside in nature, where children learn experientially, and if they're not getting out in nature, then they don't know how to care for it, respect it, protect it. And these are the natural systems that support all life on the planet. So our air, our water, our land, we lose one a species every 20 minutes. It becomes extinct. And a lot of people don't know that. And only 1/2% of all the water on the planet is potable drinking water, or can be used for irrigation of our crops. And a lot of countries are running out of water. China, India, the Middle East, and where are they going? They're going to the poorest countries in Africa, and they're land grabbing by millions of acres and using the country's water and growing the food there. I mean, our kids have got to connect up with these issues, because this is their future. This is their quality of life. And when we talk about empowering women and girls, we can give them vaccines. We can educate them. That's so important, and we can do a lot for them. But in the longer term, we need to be thinking about what kind of environment they're going to be living in. Are they going to have fresh water? Are they going to have healthy food? Are they going to have clean air? And responsible politicians and responsible corporations, and all of us need to use our voices to make sure that that happens.
And you bring up again yes, you can give a big round of applause for that. So I love that you highlight an important thing, opening your eyes up to other places on, you know, the planet, which is a part of why I love the UNF so much, because you can help here at home, but you're helping elsewhere. And what's important, if moms out there say we can't afford to travel, watching a film like Girl Rising is like taking them around the world. So, you know, with whatever you can do to inspire somebody to see outside of their own box is really important. And I also think that it's a great way when we talk about trying to meet up with young girls, you know, especially when people say, like, how can I get someone, for me, one of the challenges is how do you inspire kids here to care about what's happening there? But to point out, like you just said, as a parent, to make the connection that this affects you. And I'm excited to open your eyes to this, because in your lifetime, I may not be here, but this is something you're going to deal with. Then they see, oh, this is for me. This is my responsibility. And I think that that's another really great way to sort of, you know, bring it full circle. And I saw you nodding your head too. What were you thinking while she was saying all that?
No, I totally agree. I think, again, it's meeting them, and they understand these issues, but it's important to say this is why it's relevant to you. You know, this is what it means if people don't have access to clean water. Imagine a girl who's 13 years old like you, and look at what your life is like every day, and this is what her life is like, because she doesn't have access to these things. So, again, I think it's just changing the dialogue and the conversation and the way that we're engaging with girls.
Absolutely. And, you know, something that I joked about a little bit backstage about how harsh I would say this to a young girl, but when girls, I'm not going to say it like this, but I will tell you, I get really frustrated when kids in general, but if a young girl thinks that school is lame and she should, you know, basically ditch school or go want to hang out and be a reality star, it frustrates me, because I have a great option for you. I can have you swap places with somebody somewhere else. And the way I said that wasn't so pleasant. It was like, listen, do you want to go sign up to be violated? And somebody can take your spot in this classroom. And I think that as parents, we don't want to scare children, obviously, but to enlighten them to understand how privileged that they are to have this opportunity. And, you know, something that I think it almost goes even deeper than, yes, education is very important, but if we take something as simple as how girls see themselves in the mirror, this is at the core of it all, because a lot of these girls today that are so insecure about how they look, their body image, whether they're too skinny or too curvy, they're so caught up in themselves. I mean, if we all know teens, something that they are is very self-centered. They're rotating around their own, axis. And the only way I see to get them to stop that is to build intrinsic self-worth. And if it's something as simple as a Post-it note that says you're beautiful on the mirror, if you can inspire this in your blog post to get girls to love themselves more, when you love yourself, you can love others. When you don't, you're going to be so obsessed with how you look or what you're wearing or what other people are thinking of you, you don't have the capacity to connect to other people on this planet. And I think that you raise so many important issues, and so many, Tina, your book, Brandy, you, just by getting up there, you're this princess that everybody wants to have a voice like. No, I'm serious. But young girls look up to you, and I think that you're being a role model by incorporating a panel like this into your life and spreading the word through your social media. But in general, these are all ways to help inspire moms out there to connect to their daughters. I think more so than going to get a manicure pedicure, we can find ways, not that that's bad, you can totally do that.
But let's talk while we're doing it.
Let's talk, let's connect, and don't give up, because she is really excited to talk about, what her favorite color of the season is, and you need to take advantage of that. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I was just going to say, if you can't afford to take them to another country, you can do public service projects in your own backyard.
Yes.
There's a lot of need, and schools are really focused on that now, and I know that that's made a big difference in my own daughters' lives. So you can start in your own community. So.
Absolutely, and Girl Up, we keep saying Girl Up, but that's the idea behind it, is to empower girls here so that they can help empower girls in other places. And a lot of our daughters won't even know that that's available to them, because it's up to us to sort of inspire and educate them, to highlight that that's out there.
I have a whole paragraph I'm going to tell my daughter when I get home. So much. Just listen. No, it's going to be great.
And with Mother's Day around the corner, is there something that you can share with everyone that your mom had shared with you, or is there some special moment that would inspire to pass it forward?
Me?
Yeah, not to put you on the spot, but.
Well, my mom has shared so much with me. She's been a great example, a great inspiration in my life. I don't have one specific thing. I mean, she's just been there for me throughout my life, and that's the most important thing. And if I could do the same for my daughter, great.
Just be present.
Yes,
That's great.
be present.
Be present.
Yes.
And for you? Yeah.
I was just going to say that it takes a village, and for me, it's been a village of stepmothers, mothers, surrogate mothers, mothers-in-laws, and
grandmamas.
And yes, grandmothers and great-grandmothers. I've been very blessed, and they all have been powerful, strong women that were authentic, that really set a good example, led by example in so many ways, and I attribute my success to their, their impact on my life and my children's lives. So anyway, that's.
Well, I'm the oldest of 6 children, and so my parents have been married for 35 years, have 2 very different personalities, and I always joke that, and my dad was a reverend most of my life, so if I ever had a problem and I called Dad, he would say something really inspirational and say, I'm praying for you, and then I would call Mom and she would tell me what to do about it. And so it's always been the same, and it's still the same so many years later. And my dad would always, I would bring home an A++, and my dad would say, that's great, but if you got a C, I'd still love you anyway. And my mom would be like, is that as good as you can do? And it's still that way. I say, starting a business at 16, everything I learned, I really did learn from my mom, how to write a professional letter. And she always kind of said, you do not have an excuse to fail. Failure is not an option you have. And what I learned growing up was that she meant just doing it, you learn something, and by nature of just trying and doing it, you haven't failed. And so, being resourceful is definitely something I learned at a very young age from my mom. And I think raising 6 children, and she was one of 14, depending on your family. And my dad was an only child. How interesting is that? He really wanted a big family. I'm like, you married into a big family and had a big family. But, you know, the support of my siblings and doing everything that I've done. And so I think she taught me, all of us, that family is so important and depending on your family. And I love the line that your friends are the family that you chose. And so,
Absolutely.
you know, how we cultivate our communities. And so I think when I think about those lessons for girls, it's teaching girls at that age. I have the same best friends I had when I was 11 or 12. And you had, you know, Jennifer Lopez said that this morning too. She's had the same group of people. And so I think teaching our girls how to be good to other girls is really important, you know, because I think we've taught them enough how to be mean to other girls, but teaching them to be good to other girls, it makes them feel better. We get back to the intrinsic value that they get from that. And so I learned that, you know, having my older cousins and having my sisters, I naturally had a support group where we had to love and be kind to each other. And I think that made that really easy for me to be that way with my friends. And we've got to teach girls how to do that, because that will kind of solve a lot of these things we're talking about.
And that's something similar. You know, my mom, when I was thinking about what to share, my mother's from Portugal, and she came here when she was 20. She's one of 9. And, you know, watching my mom growing up, it was an interesting sort of journey. My mother married an American and ended up that, you know, when they were divorcing, I had watched my mom come here with an accent and witnessed, you know, people either correcting her, making fun of her, and as her daughter being like, do not talk to my mom that way. You know, you get very, you know, protective. But the one thing that my mom just, it's so funny, you have that moment, everybody has that moment, or if you haven't, you will, that you go, oh my gosh, I'm just like my mom, where you do something and it's not, and you realize you're doing it from a place of love or whatnot, but I just, you know, remember my mom being so kind to specifically other women. And regardless of how she was treated, my mother had explained to me when I was younger that she felt so privileged to be able to come to America and start a life here. And, you know, whether she had to, the way she would say it in her, you know, I wanted to pay my dues. I would tell people that I'm not here to take anything from them. And she was so humble. And I would watch my mom turn a situation where somebody would sort of be not so kind to her, but just by the end, hugging her and loving her. And it's like my mom turned the other cheek. She was always able to sort of extend the olive branch and be so kind and authentic to the women around her. And growing up, I just realized with all of this work, you know, my first book launch, I remember being in LA last week with my mom and the tears come to my eyes because she was sitting there looking at me as if she was so proud. And I'm like, but this is you. Yeah. You know, you gave me all of this. You set me up to be this. And so, you know, mothers are the most important thing on this planet. That's why it's Mother Earth. And I couldn't agree more with, you know, not only this topic being so passionate, but we do need to find a way for not just young girls, but women to be more supportive and connected and kind, because when you invest in you, they will too. And investing in us is how we teach these young girls to look at themselves. And we are teaching by example every moment of the day. And so, you know, I hope some of our points inspired you. I thought I was going to see I don't know the time, if we have a few more minutes, we could take a few questions. Oh, you want to interrupt? Sorry. I thought there was somewhere. I didn't know if I saw a light or not. But I know for myself that I appreciate your time and listening to this topic. And I'm going to say if you want to say goodbye or anything that's going on. But I'm not good at this moderating thing. Another thing my mom does, she talks a lot. No. But I really care so much, and I want to thank the UNF for giving me the opportunity to help young girls everywhere, and the Universal Access Project is amazing. So I'm sure you've all heard about it all day, and thank you very much, Brandy, Laurentina, and that's it. Thanks.